Alright, in the previous video I forgot to cover 51, which actually went with the previous video. So let's do this one. Again, we're just simplifying this. We need to get rid of the negative under the square root and also reduce the square root of 98. So remember, the negative is going to come out as an I. 98. If we use the divide by 2, 3, and 5 method, divide 98 by 2, you get 49, and that is a perfect square. So this is going to be 5 plus or minus square root of 49 is 7. The negative comes out as I. You're left with square root of 2, and then that's all divided by 3. And that can't be simplified down any further because 3, 5, and 7 are all prime numbers. Okay. The rest of the questions in this video are going to be from unit number 8. And in unit number 8, we had the law of sines and cosines, and that's what these problems are going to be in reference to. So first is to determine which formula is which. So first says, which is the law of sines? Well, the law of sines is the one that's going to have a sine in it. Sine of A over A, sine of B over side B, sine of angle C over side C. The law of cosines is going to be one with the cosine in it, which is where you square each of the sides, kind of looks like Pythagorean theorem a little bit, minus 2 times these two sides multiplied together times the cosine of the angle, and recall that this angle has to be across from that side. Those have to be opposites. Okay? Likewise, these have to be opposites as well. Whatever the angle is, the side opposite has to go across. So if you had a triangle here, A, B, C, side A, little a would be across from A, little b would be across from angle B, and little c would be across from side C. Okay? So using that, it says set up the equation to solve for this using either law of sines or cosines to find the missing side or angle. But it says do not solve, so you don't need to solve this one. Okay. So again, when I'm doing these problems, what I try to do is I try to use the law of sines first to see if it works. Well, on here, if we're looking for an angle, so since we're looking for an angle, we have an angle, so there's a high probability we could use law of sines. So if we did sine of 78, we would need to know the side opposite that, which we do. So that's going to be 8. And then that would equal the sine of an angle. Well, we have an angle that we're looking for. That's x. Now we can use this as long as we can find that side opposite angle x. Well, do we have that? We sure do. That's 7. So here's the equation that you would use to solve for angle x. Okay? It ended up using the law of sines. But it says do not solve, so we're not going to come up with an answer. Okay? So then on 55, here we want to use either law of sines or cosines to find the missing side or angle. Again, not solving. So here, if we tried to use the law of sines again, okay, let's see if I can't bring this down so we can see that. There we go. So if we try to use the law of sines again, here what you would need is sine of 65 over the side opposite, but then you're going to need another angle because we already have a variable, and we don't know either of these angles, so we are not going to be able to use the law of sines. So therefore, we're going to have to use the law of cosines. So recall in the law of cosines that whatever this angle is, this has to be the side opposite. So since this is our angle, that's going to be the side opposite. So as we write this term here is going to be your x. So this is going to be x squared equals your other two sides squared. So this is 10 squared plus 13 squared minus those same two sides multiplied by 2. So that's 10 times 13. and then that gets multiplied by the cosine of your angle, and your angle was 65. Okay? So this expression here would allow us to find out what side x was, and that time we use the law of cosines. Okay? We have one more. Here was number 56. Number 56 says solve using the appropriate law, either law of sines or cosines. So we're going to see which one works, and we're going to actually come up with the answer. So again, let's try to use the law of sines first. So we need an angle and a side opposite. Okay, well, we have this angle, and we've got that side opposite, so that's good, because that's the one we're looking for. But then we would need to know the angle that's across from this other side, because we can't have two variables. Well, this angle is across from this side, so we need to know what this angle is. Well, here we have an angle, but we don't know what the side is. Can we find this angle? Well, we can, because all three angles have to add up to 180. So if you take 180 and you subtract off the 32 degree angle and you subtract off the 123 degree angle, we should find that missing angle. So if we do that, we take 180 minus 32 minus 123, and we get 25 degrees. So this angle here is 25 degrees. Okay. So now let's use the law of sines. So this is the sine of, let's do the 32 over that side, which is x, equals the sine, we need another angle, so that's going to be 25 over the side opposite it, which is 9. Okay? So now we've got our equation. So once we have our equation, this is just a proportion, so we can cross multiply. And remember, the short way to cross multiply is take the two numbers that you know that are opposite, multiply and divide by the one across from the variable. So x equals 9 times the sine of 32 divided by the sine of 25. Okay? So now when you go to plug this in, recall that you better check your mode. Go to mode, make sure you're in degrees, which we are. So now let's do 9 times the sine of 32, close your parentheses, divided by the sine of 25. And there we get 11.285, and you'll just round it to whatever the multiple choice answer says. Okay? So that's a review of law of sines, law of cosines.